Your show is scheduled to start in 20 seconds. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. I'm your host, Leon Jones. It is Saturday, July 17th, 2021, and I hope everybody is still enjoying their wonderful Saturday. Today, I'm going to touch on the subject that is going to be a little controversial and sensitive to some, but we have to talk about the issues that are affecting us as a country, but not only affecting us as a people, but us as individuals. And I did tell you last week that I was going to come and do a video that deals with psychology. Psychology is very important because it studies behavior, whereas anthropology studies cultures. And I'm going to get into some anthropology next week because we need to talk about cultures and customs and ceremonies because it's important that we understand what's going on because we really live in a diversified country. But the problem is you have one race who is the largest population, and being the largest population, they have more of the resources so they can conduct business a lot better, and they have the power to keep a lot of other groups out of the picture. However, if you are another group and you understand business, you understand education, you understand how this economy works, because we all have to go under the same rules, then you're not going to have any problem. Now, I want to caution you when it comes to racism, because that word has been flying around. I did a video last week on critical race theory. Don't get me wrong. There are ignorant people out there, whether they're black, white, yellow, red. But just because you have a few bad apples doesn't mean that all the apples are bad. Because again, just like I put last week, many of us today have never seen real racism unless racism still exists where you live. Now, if you're in the South, like Alabama, Louisiana, some parts of Florida, some parts of Georgia, maybe some parts of Texas. I live here in Indiana. Maybe some of those parts. You may experience some small racism, but it's not systematic racism. Now, before I continue, I want you all to check out my channel by liking the videos. Right now, I am doing this radio show via Zoom and, of course, Blog Talk Radio. So I do have a guest calling number. The guest calling number is 215-383-5785. Now, I also have the 411 Talk Zone radio show on YouTube. And of course, I have a second channel called The Mind of STEM. Now, here's how you will find me. You can always click on the 411 Talk Zone radio show links if you want to find my channel. Now, if you cannot find my channel, here's what you can do. After I complete an upload, I still do pre-recorded videos. I will send it to Twitter, MeWe, and Parler. Again, you can find the 401 Talk Zone radio show on Twitter, MeWe, and Parler. You can also find the Mind of STEM channel on Twitter. Again, I'm not asking you to do this either. You can donate. Click on the Cash App. The link is at the bottom of all of my videos. I would like individuals to start supporting my channel. If you cannot, utilize some green dollars. Bring me some subscribers. Bring me 10 subscribers. Bring me 20 subscribers. My goal right now is hit the 2,000 mark. Right now, I also believe my channel is being shadow banned and I cannot monetize it because of what I say. I'm okay with that. I have a regular job. Not going to complain. This isn't my platform, but I am getting an opportunity to speak. So what I'm going to tell you all is this. Just like my videos, the more you like my videos, the better it is. Now, next, I want to talk about Black men for a moment. And the reason why I want to talk about us is too many of us have a pussy first mindset. And let me tell you this. It does not make you a man to not want a piece of ass. Because like Snoop Dogg said, ain't no pussy good enough for me to get my wallet up in it. Again, he said, ain't no pussy good enough to get my wallet up in it. Brothers, stop tricking. These women are easy. Now to the women, I don't hate women. I love women. My job is to ensure that you understand men. And women have come to my platform and they've commented, as long as you're professional. But before I go on, let me give a shout out to Brother Theo Wolf, Brother Chaos Rain, Brother Clue, Brother Little Big Nate, Brother Trey, Brother Mr. O, Brother B. Cooper. Now, there are others out there. I'll remember them later. But these are the brothers that I associate myself with. And of course, Brother Red, shout out to you too, because might not come on your channel like I used to, but you still have some good content. It's very entertaining. Brother Reg, you're welcome to come over here where you're going to get some knowledge. And I do thank you for giving me some assistance with Zoom. I love Zoom, and that's what I'm using right now. So again, I want you all to like my videos, support my channel. If you can't do it with money, bring me some subscribers. I have a small channel, but my content is just as good as anyone else's. You have to be willing to listen. Sometimes my content is long, but it takes a lot to deliver information. But on that note, I want to get into the topic. And let me share my screen. And what I'm going to talk about today is something that we all need to understand. Now, last week I talked about critical race theory. Now, today I'm going to talk about the victim mentality. And it is very important that you understand the victim mentality, because what's happening in this country is we have a lot of people who want to cry wolf. They want to be victims. Some of them are hypochondriacs. Now, what's bad about this is you have a lot of elitists from both parties. You have corporations. You have social media outlets who are making money off of people's victimization. To me, that's very demonic. But now, when it comes to victimization, one of the reasons why I have a problem with it is because individuals are allowed to use their victim status to get away with what they say, because they're a minority, they're a woman, they're part of LGBTQ. And some of them won't even make up that they have some type of illness. But in the long run, when it comes to being a victim, we all have been victims in a situation. But this victimization has caused a cancel culture. I mean, you look at the Washington Redskins, the good old Hogs, and I remember those Hogs back in the 80s. Well, they've been pressed to change their name because some Indians felt hurt. Or are the Indians hurt, or are the white liberals? Because a lot of this is being driven by the white liberals who are actually using black media to basically put down black people who don't think like them. Because a number of African Americans, and it's the older genders, the men and women, many of them are still on that plantation. But that plantation hasn't really done anything for you. But today, once you hear this, you're going to understand what the victim mentality is. Now, this is fair use. This is an article, and I'm going to read and I'm going to elaborate the information in this article so you're going to understand it. Now, the title of today's content is Victimhood is a mental disorder. Victimhood is a mental disorder. Now, again, fair use. What is the victim mentality? Now, this information is coming from web.com, a very good source when it comes to health, and the American Psychological Association is another good source when it comes to psychology issues. Now, when I talk about the victim mentality, listen to this. Everybody in life has their ups and downs, but the strong people can get through their ups and downs without a problem. It's the weak people who need a little help. But sometimes people who are able-bodied don't need help at all. They're looking for attention. Well, in life, bad things might happen to you or people you know on a daily basis. But there are some people who claim it's never their fault. And it's never their fault because this is where accountability comes into the equation here. Now, A number of individuals argue that they have no control over the tough situations and problems that they may encounter. Why? Because it simply always happens to them. These are the victims. The problem is always, woe, it's me. However, it's somebody else's fault. Now, people who consistently blame other people or situations for the events in their lives have what we call victim mentality. Now, with all that being said, what does victim mentality really mean? I mean, I just gave you an overview. Well, starting off with victim mentality, it states that it's not my fault. And when it's not my fault, it's basically someone who has a victim mentality that claims everything that happens to them is the fault of others. Blame others. It might be the fault of their partner, family, co-worker, or friend. They constantly complain about bad things that happen in their lives. Why? Because they don't take responsibility, asserting that the circumstances aren't in their control. Now, next, there's what we call a martyr complex. Now, the martyr complex involves this when it comes to victim mentality. And it states that victim mentality can be confused with a martyr complex. Now, there are two similar behaviors, but there are also some differences. You see, when it comes to victims, they take things personally. In other words, when you're having a debate back and forth, and this usually happens between the liberal and the conservative, the liberal, when they can't win, they like to throw an ad hominem attack at the conservative. But when a conservative throws an ad hominem attack at the liberal, then the liberal is getting into his or her feelings because they are taking the content personally. You see a lot of that here on YouTube. Now, you have to understand this. When victims take things personally, they don't think critically. Even if a comment or statement wasn't directed at them, they will still absorb it as it was. Again, when individuals take things personally, like you might hear somebody that says all men are dogs. Well, I'm not going to raise my hand because that's not true. Now, if you raise your hand, then they're talking about you. Again, when people take things personally, they don't think critically. Even if a comment or statement wasn't directed at them. Again, when you take things personally, you end up getting off your focus. But people do. Even when a situation isn't directed at them, they will still absorb the situation as if it was about them. Here's an example. What did I do to deserve this? That's a common question for them. Again, fair use. Now, on the other hand, a person with a martyr complex will often go out of their way to take on extra tasks for other people, even if they don't want to. They sacrifice themselves for others, yet often feel resentful after the fact. Why? Because they're expecting something. And I always say, in the long run, you're not always going to get a pat on the back for what you do. This is why you have to be careful for who you do something for. Now, something else that's part of the victim mentality: no coping mechanisms. You see, people who have a victim mentality have usually suffered through trauma or hard times, but haven't developed a proper way to cope. So as a result, they develop a negative view of life because they don't think anything is their fault. So they have little or no sense of responsibility for their lives. It just happened to them. Again, these individuals take a negative view of their lives. This is what the liberals have done. What Nate says, the Luciferian left. They take a negative view of life, but yet they've also managed to benefit financially off of being a victim. Because again, since I've been on the air last 15 minutes, you've heard me repeat, no sense of responsibility. The word accountability keeps sneaking up in this presentation. Again, when it comes to people with no coping mechanisms, they believe that life is negative, but they have little or no sense of responsibility for their own lives. It just happened to them. So many of them are begging somebody else to help them. And these are the individuals who never grow up. Now, if someone tries to help or offer solutions, they're often prepared with a list of reasons why they will not work. People who will try to help them are often left frustrated and confused. Now, here's the thing, and this is what's going on in this country. You have a number of people who feel, I'm not going to use the word feel, I'm going to use the word believe. You have a number of people who believe that they're entitled to something. They want to work for nothing. And see, victimization also creates laziness. Now, you have to ask this question. But before I go on, you're listening to the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube and Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Leon Jones. If you want to call in, the guest calling number is 215-383-5785. If you want to donate, when the video is concluded, click on the Cash App. If you can't click on the Cash App, send me some subscribers, because this channel is putting out information that you're not going to hear in too many places, especially when we deal with issues of psychology. Now, let's move on. The biggest question is, why be a victim? What's so attractive about being a victim? Well, when it comes to being a victim, I can answer that. There's some benefits to playing a victim role. Now, if you've seen that video with the white lady in Victoria's Secret, known as the Karen, it was a black lady who kept on recording her. Now, I'm not going to post that video because it's already gone viral. But this Karen is probably in her 30s or early 40s. But she sounded like a spoiled brat, because she's the one who caused the incident, but yet wanted to play the victim, because she thought that people were going to come to her aid. And this is what victimhood does. Again, victimhood is a mental disorder, although it's not in the DSM. If you don't know what the DSM-5 is, it's the Dynamic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. It's a big reference book when it comes to psychological issues. Now, again, there are benefits to playing victim, because that's what a number of individuals are really doing. Now, when it comes to be a victim, bing, 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 the word has come into play. If you were playing Jeopardy, Alex, I want accountability for 1,000. You got it. Being accountable for your life means that you're in the driver's seat. You take responsibility. Now, that can be scary for someone who has a mental disorder known as the victim mentality. Why? Because you would have to admit life isn't just the result of the actions of others. Taking responsibility bursts the protective bubble of victimhood. Again, when you're a victim, there's no accountability. Not just you, but you're going to have other people who have been in your shoes, or they haven't been in your shoes. They may be on your side politically. They're going to make excuses for you. Therefore, you can shift the blame to someone else and act like the situation never occurred. Number two, secondary gain. Now, some people's problems continue because of the secondary benefits, such as sympathy. Then there's attention. Any access to medication or funds are common examples of secondary gain. Why? Because someone who has the victim mentality might not even realize they're getting those benefits, and they often feel truly distressed. Now, again, when it comes to this culture, we have seen a rise in a victim mentality. Now, something else that arises with the victim mentality, it satisfies unconscious needs. You see, people with a victim mentality, especially when it comes from past trauma, unconsciously seek validation. Now, remember, they unconsciously seek validation and help from others. They can play the poor me card consistently. Again, they can play the poor me card consistently. They are playing the poor me card consistently, and they can utilize that to stop the debate from the other side who's trying to challenge you, because this is going to generate sympathy and help from others. And usually individuals who have the victim mentality also have emotional issues. They don't think logically or critically. And also, when it comes to the victim mentality, a number of individuals do not believe in taking risks. Why? Because projecting blame on others is part of the victim mentality. It is a way to avoid truly being vulnerable and taking risks. Again, a business owner is going to take risks. If the business isn't working, he can't blame anybody else but himself or herself. Now, again, I want you all to like the video. And what I'm talking about right now is the victim mentality. Now, what about signs of having the victim mentality? Well, in life, it's normal to be unsatisfied in some parts of your life. I have been. Now, did I lick my wounds? Absolutely. Did I take that beat down? Absolutely. But I found ways to navigate myself through the labyrinth of challenge. And life is ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. Now, when it comes to the victim mentality, it's important to look at the bigger picture if you notice similar patterns across different areas of your life. If you can do that, you might have a victim mentality. Now, the first step to solving the problem is to identify the problem and acknowledge that you have a problem. Look for signs in yourself to see if you might have adopted a victim mentality. And here are the signs. Number one, you blame others for the way your life is. Number two, you basically think life and everyone is against you. Number three, you have trouble coping with problems in your life and you feel powerless against them. In other words, you develop the defeatist attitude. Number four, you feel stuck in life and you approach things with a negative attitude. And you see a number of young folk and you have a number of older folk who have done the same. They couldn't get their lives started correctly. And some of them are comfortable being victims or playing victim. Number five, you feel attacked when someone tries to offer helpful feedback. Well, that's true. Because again, these individuals want to do nothing but complain. Makes them feel good to complain, and it makes them feel good to get that attention. Now, I had to use the word feel because, again, we're going right back to emotions, because this is what victimhood is. Because with the victim mentality, although it's not in the DSM-5, it's a mindset that everyone is against them. It's everyone else's fault. Life is a bitch. But in the long run, it's really all your fault. Also, you have to understand this when it comes to dealing with people. When you have the victim mindset, you attract people who blame others and complain about their lives. Who wants to hear that all day? Get lost. You can fix it if you want to, but you don't want to fix it. You are constantly complaining about what's going on in your life. And also, it's difficult for you to examine yourself. So you're going to have a hard time making changes. Now, what I'm going to say to this, to defeat the victim mindset, is you got to understand, first of all, that being a victim is a learned behavior. In other words, it's not something that you were born with. It's something you learn in a social environment. It could be learned from family members or the result of trauma. However, as an individual, you have the power to overcome it. Take the first steps in the following ways. Now, when we deal with victimization, again, you got to take responsibility. You are the only one who controls your actions. You might not be able to control others, but you can control how you react to them. You control who you spend time with and where. So you must realize your potential and get in the driver's seat of your life. Self-care and compassion. Victim mentalities are subconsciously adopted as a way to cope, often from past trauma. Be compassionate to yourself in your recovery. Practice self-care and self-love. Journaling can be a helpful tool as well to work with what's going on in your life. If you have been one of those individuals that has constantly been taking care of people, but you haven't been taken care of, there's a 2-letter word that you can say. Just say no. You can say no to something you don't want to do. It's okay. Even if other people feel you are letting them down. Take care of your energy and prioritize yourself. And this is what red pill is, real red pill. You put yourself over pedestalizing women. You understand the truth. This is what real MGTOW comes from when men are going their own way. They're tired of what's going on in their lives, so they decided to do something about their lives instead of complaining about what's going on in their lives. And what do? They basically opted themselves out of the system. Now, also, you have to educate yourself. Read books about the victim mentality and how it affects your life. Also, consider seeking therapy. The more you educate yourself on a topic, the more you're likely to stay on track with your recovery and avoid going back to the old way of thinking. Again, when it comes to the victim mindset, we all run into bad times in our lives. But at the end of the day, we have to depend on our decisions. Now, something I would advise you all to do. When I talk about making a journal, you have to look at the problem and you have to take the problem. And if you're an engineer like I am, I took a course called statics. Now, in industrial engineering, they take the problem as a whole, but in other disciplines of engineering, we take the whole problem and we break it up into components. Why? because it's easier to solve the components, and then we add all the solved components together to get the overall solution of the problem. Now, when it comes to being a victim, particularly in this politically divided country, we have left versus right, men against women, old against young, hetero against homo. First of all, let's talk about people. Okay. You want to get with like-minded people as well. And a number of individuals don't talk about this when they're dating or they're trying to build friendships. Many of us, and I'm going to get into this in another video, many of us use racism, we use sexism, we say everything is not fair. Of course, life isn't fair, but I'm going to be genuine with this. And this is just common sense, because this is what I will give you here. Common sense. Listen, you are who you attract. If you are attracting bad people in your lives, it is your duty and obligation to look at yourself first. Sometimes you have to leave old friends and family behind, because those old friends and family are making you feel guilty, because they're also tugging on your shirt there because they're victims. Jealousy does invoke the victim mindset as well, because you see a number of people who are talking about Kevin Samuels and Kwame Brown. Now, I don't talk about those two brothers because those two brothers marketed themselves very well. They knew how to build an audience, and they deserve what they got. But you have a number of people who don't have any talent at all, and they're putting these brothers' names in their video titles to try to make money off of their names. The bottom line is, people who are doing that are basically failing in life. They don't understand what's going on. They want to take the easy way out. And one thing I can see when it comes to the victim mindset, people are equipped to take the easy way out. And blaming somebody else for your misfortunes is taking the easy way out. This is why here in the Black community, a number of the brothers talk about the ABW, talk about the American Black woman not having any accountability. Well, if you're going to be around somebody that has no accountability, that's your fault. You're always going to have a tug of war, because that person is looking for that protection. That person is protected by the media, by education, by other people around them. And the people around them aren't very smart either, because they also have the victim mindset. It's called share, share, or like. But as an adult, we're all going to go through something. Now, people who have been molested, and RAPED, that's another ball game right there. That's trauma. You need to constantly get counseling. You have to face that. And to individuals who have gone through that trauma, I apologize for that. Should never have happened. Now, I want to say this again. I don't hate women. I'm not against the LGBTQ community. I'm for families. I'm for men being head of the households, responsible, productive men. I'm not for domestic violence. But one thing that does bring the victim mindset into play is what we're listening to on the radio. It's what we're watching on TV. If we don't start writing these corporations about the unfairness, then that's our fault. And when it comes to politics, you haven't heard me go into it too much because I believe that what happened in 2020, and I'm not going to go over the fall season that we have every 4 years, I do believe that the Republicans were in on it as well. You see, the Republicans act like they're the saviors. No, they're just following the demons around because in actuality, they're demons too. And you have individuals out here when it comes to victimization, they're making money off of it. And they want you to continue to be a victim. And you have individuals that you vote for every 2 to 4 years that want to continue to give you chips to keep you on a plantation. Well, here's the problem. In the long run, you get comfortable and you will never be a productive person in society. You see, being productive takes smart and hard work, it takes planning, directing, organizing, coordination, and designing. If you don't understand those concepts, you're going to always fail in life. Now, this country, in some ways, when it comes to individuals who don't have anything, has always been built on a lie. Now, again, you have to look at the situation for yourself and learn how to analyze it. And once you understand how to analyze it, then you have to put everything into action. And a big problem with people is they talk too much. Talking makes them feel good. But it's not about the feeling. It's about the thinking. When you're managing something, you don't worry about how it's going to make you feel. And let me give you an example. If I want to take off the stomach and I haven't used the stomach muscles in a long time, some of the exercises are going to be uncomfortable. That's the no pain, no gain cliche. It's true. But if you want to see the results, you have to work at it. And you have to be patient because most of us are looking for instant gratification. Again, with weight loss, this is why a number of individuals are getting weight loss surgery. And when it doesn't work out, what happens? It's not my fault. And when you do things in life, there are lots of risks you're going to take. But in the long run, you have to understand this. You're going to have people for you and you're going to have people against you. And going back to people, a lot of us are putting race and everything, sex and everything. And I'm talking about gender. Well, it's not even that. It comes down to two things. It comes down to class and social status. If you are a person that has made it into in elite status, are you going to deal with someone who's at the bottom? No. And when you have a social circle, okay, if you are a corporate person, are you going to engage with individuals who aren't corporate? No. Why? Because you don't speak the same language. Now, this is critical because there are a number of individuals trying to have relationships and they're dating outside their lane. And I say that for a reason, because this is very critical. When it doesn't work, and I hear it mostly from the women, or mainly from the women, they blame the man. When both of you partook in the relationship, it's not that you all were bad people. It's just that when it came to levels, you had different interests, different types of people, and you were in a different class. Now, this is all critical because when you deal with failures in life, that's all you know is failures. But if you're a failure, you're going to have to clean yourself up to become positive so you can raise yourself up to be positive. See, in real life, most of us want to go up. We don't want to go down. And in the end, when it comes to being a victim, and I'm just going to say this, there are circumstances where people have become victims. Black people were victims of circumstance when they were slaves. They didn't know what they were getting into. But here's the problem. Today's Black people who have never been slaves are still going back to slavery. They're always using that argument. They think nothing has changed. Certainly, there have been some things that have changed for the better and some things that have changed for the worse. But it's up to African American people to decide where they want to go. Do they want to maintain mental slavery, or do they want to become free mentally? That's the choices. You only have two choices, and you only have one life. But in the long run, what I'm tired of being an African American, tired of basically being indirectly being called stupid, being told that if I don't vote a certain way, I'm not Black, being told that I can't use the internet, being told that I can't afford a lawyer. That's bullshit. But you have a number of Black people who believe that. And then as a Black person, when I call out another Black person, I'm called a coon, a Sambo, an Uncle Ruckus. Maybe those people who are doing the name calling need to look at themselves. Maybe they're jealous of what I'm doing with my life. They haven't gotten to that point. Well, if they come and ask me, and I'm using myself as an example, I can show them. But you have to want to be shown. Again, when it comes in with an old dog, that old cliche is true mostly. You can't teach an old dog new tricks if they're stuck in their ways. But when it comes to being a victim, I believe a number of people are playing victim, but they're not victims. They want to find the easy way out. And when you find the easy way out, you also bring society down to a standard of mediocrity, because you're going to have jealousy for people, or you're going to be jealous of people who are doing better than you. And we have a lot of elitists in this country who are telling people to be victims, but yet they've made it. It's an oligarchy for the rich by the rich. And I tell you what, he's in his grave right now. Number of people who are victims today, Jim Jones would love him if he took them to Ghana. Because one thing about people who are victims, they're also gullible too. They'll listen to what somebody is saying to make them feel good, but in the long run, it isn't good. You look at some of these pastors. Why do you have a number of women who go to church? Because the pastor is making them feel good. Do a number of these Christian women really read the Bible? They read the scriptures and they interpret the scriptures that seem beneficial to them, but they're not real Christians. And religion has gone away from its traditionalism. And I've always said religion has always been used to control the masses. And it's usually your downtrodden. Now, again, I'm not saying don't believe in a deity or God, because I do. But real life is about putting everything together and understanding it. Your faith, your production, your education, your skills. Because in the long run, we're individuals. And it takes real individuals to make this country work. And being a victim and crying victim is almost like crying wolf. You ever heard the boy who cried wolf? Cried wolf many times when there was no wolf. And when that wolf got there, he cried it again, but no one believed him. And see, when you have that victim mindset, you also lose trust from people who believe in you, because they're offering you something and you don't want to take it. Again, what I'm preaching is common sense. You don't have to look this up. You don't even have to debate this. What you need to understand is who you are. And only when you understand who you are and understand that you as an individual have a problem, it's you who has to acknowledge that problem and solve that problem. And you as an individual have to watch out for who you are interacting with. Because when people bring you down, you're going to fall into the victim mindset, but realize you were hanging with the wrong people in the first place. You might have not seen it at first, but you can, over time, tell by their actions. And in the long run, you're going to find out that you have people out here who are going to be jealous of you. They're not your friends. Even your family members. See, blood is thicker than water. I don't believe that anymore either. Loved ones will stab you in the back more than anyone because they expect you to come to their aid because they're your relatives. But in the end, your relatives just want something as well. You don't want to deal with anybody who's a no-load. People who cry foul all day, make up excuses. They don't feel good about themselves, so they want to blame others. But for the most part, if you want to free yourself from the victim mindset, got to get a hold of your life, and you got to change what's eating at you. And you may have to hurt some people in the long run to do that. But you got to look in the long run, if you are in a victimhood status, it could also cause other problems, cardiovascular problems, stress. Because you have people looking at you to help them, but yet when you have a problem, are they going to help you? The answer is no. They're going to make excuses. And then when you question them, they're going to fall right back into the victim mindset. In fact, they're going to call you names. They're going to shame you. And a lot of people who have the victim mindset just don't want to deal with the issue anyway, even if they know they have an issue. That's why they blame someone else. That's why they call names. And they can weaponize the victim mentality to stop debate. And that's what's happening now. When I bring out a fact, somebody calls me a coon, that's the end of the debate. They lost. Because they're attacking me personally. And then you have people with the victim mindset who are stubborn. They don't want to listen. And you have some of them that think they know more than you, but they're the ones with the problem. So as an adult, what you have to do, you have to understand what's going on with yourself, and you have to understand the world around you. You'll never be free being a victim. You'll always be crying wolf. And even the people who are on your side at that time, who are crying just like you, they're not going to help you either. Because they're going to eat their own. Because even in that victim mindset, there's jealousy. There's crabs in a barrel. You've heard that with black people. And that is true. But when it comes to dealing with people, you got to we look at race too much. Certainly, there are ignorant people out there. I served my country for 17 years in the United States Navy. I'm patriotic, but I do know right from wrong. And I know there are people who agree with me, people who don't agree with me. I'm fine with that. What I'm going to give you is real world, common sense. Because what's happening here, common sense is lacking. We've used victimization so many times, we've become a feelings-oriented country. And when you start using feelings for everything, it starts to lower the maturity level too. Because I can tell you something right now, a 20-year-old today is not as mature as a 20-year-old 50 years ago. They have two different mindsets. Now, here's their victimization. They're going to say the economy is hard. Every generation's had it hard. But this generation has it a lot easier because there's more information. But because everything has been given to them, they believe that they can relax and live off everyone else. That's why you have a number of kids who are in their 20s and 30s and their 40s still living at home with their parents. Parents don't require anything of them. You have it in college. People who don't want to study because they say the subject matter is too hard. Well, maybe if you take time to look at the subject matter and practice, you may end up picking up the content. Now, of course, in college, you might not understand a professor, so you might have to drop the class, but take it through another professor, take it at a community college. But in the long run, the victim mindset allows you to have the defeatist attitude. It allows you to give up. And that's what a number of individuals want to do, because there's always somebody to pick them up. We need to stop that. Certainly, we have to work as a team in the workplace, but we also have to know ourselves as an individual. And too often, you have a number of individuals here who are relying on the government. I mean, even leadership, they sound like victims. You look at the politicians, millionaires. You look at the athletes, millionaires. And they still sound like victims. But these individuals aren't reaching out, helping anybody else, but yet they're getting served. Maybe if we stop their pay from going to their games or stop electing buffoons who have the victim mindset and elect individuals and watch individuals who got a mindset that they want to produce, we can have a better country. You know, no doubt, when there are no real fathers in the house, no real men leading, you have a demise in society. I don't care what anyone thinks. That's what's happening. When you don't have the mother who's nurturing, when you got feminism running amok, the LGBTQ militant folks, they're running amok because they want a society where they can control your children. And the feminists, they want power. But underneath their agendas, they're victims in their own minds. And in the long run, if we don't call that nonsense out, we're going to be living in an uncomfortable place. Mark my word on that. But in the end, this is what you have to do. Be accountable for who you are. Again, be accountable for who you are. Know thyself. If you have a problem, acknowledge it. Get help. In the end, you make life better for yourself if you understand what's going on around you and you understand who you are. Because if you're a victim, you're still a slave. If you're a producer, you're free. Ask yourself, which way is prosperous for you? Slavery or freedom? Leave that in the comment section under the videos. Again, being a victim means, in most cases, I'm talking about playing victim, it means that you have accepted and you are comfortable with failure. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show, right here on YouTube and Blog Talk Radio. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some science, technology, engineering, and math, a little lighter, and you check out the Mind of STEM channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math by talking about these subjects like mechanical engineering, cryptology, computer-aided drafting, and civil engineering. Now, here on Blog Talk Radio, even if I don't get any call-ins, my guest call-in number is 215 383-5785. Now, if you can't find me on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, you can find me on Twitter, MeWe, and Parler. And at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And again, when it comes to my content, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 401 Talk Zone Radio Show right here on Blog Talk Radio and YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you to have a wonderful and gracious afternoon. God bless you. I'm out.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.